Islamic views on Jesus, Moses, and other prophets. The concept of prophethood in Islam. In Islam, prophets, called Nabi in Arabic, are considered chosen individuals who received divine revelation to guide humanity. Muslims believe Allah sent approximately 124,000 prophets throughout history, with 25 specifically named in the Quran. Prophets in Islam are viewed as morally exemplary humans, not divine beings. They delivered the same core message of monotheism, Tawhid, calling people to worship the one God and live righteously. The Quran states that God sent messengers to every nation and community, making prophethood a universal concept in Islamic theology. The status of Jesus, Isa, in Islam. Jesus, known as Isa in Arabic, holds a special position in Islam as one of the most important prophets. The Quran refers to him as Al-Masih, the Messiah, and Ruh min Allah, a spirit from God. Muslims believe in his miraculous birth to the Virgin Mary, Maryam, affirming that he was born without a father through God's command be, and it is. While Islam rejects his divinity or status as God's literal son, Jesus is deeply revered as a mighty messenger who performed miracles by God's permission, including healing the sick, bringing the dead to life, and speaking from the cradle as an infant. Surat Maryam, chapter 19, in the Quran dedicates significant passages to Jesus and his mother. Moses, Musa, and the Exodus in Islamic tradition. Moses, Musa, is mentioned more times in the Quran than any other prophet, appearing in 34 chapters. The Islamic narrative closely follows the biblical account with some differences. According to the Quran, Moses was raised in Pharaoh's household, received revelation at Mount Tur, Sinai, confronted Pharaoh with miraculous signs, led the Israelites out of Egypt, received the Torah, and established God's covenant with the children of Israel. Islamic tradition particularly emphasizes Moses' direct communication with Allah, earning him the title Kalam Allah, one who spoke with Allah. The Quran presents Moses' struggle against Pharaoh as the archetypal battle between monotheism and tyrannical power, making his story particularly relevant to Muslims. Ibrahim, the father of monotheism. Ibrahim, holds a uniquely important position in Islam as the spiritual forefather of monotheism. The Quran calls him Khalil Allah, friend of God, and presents him as the perfect example of submission to God's will. Muslims believe Abraham rebuilt the Kaaba in Mecca with his son Ishmael, establishing it as humanity's first house of worship dedicated to the one God. The annual Hajj pilgrimage commemorates Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son out of obedience to God, though Islamic tradition generally identifies this son as Ishmael rather than Isaac. Abraham is seen as neither Jewish nor Christian but as a pure monotheist or Hanif, representing the original uncorrupted faith that preceded Judaism and Christianity. Noah, and the Great Flood. The Quran presents Noah, as the first major prophet after Adam, sent to call people back to monotheism after idolatry had spread. According to Islamic tradition, Noah preached for 950 years, facing constant rejection except from a small number of followers. When divine punishment was decreed through the flood, Allah commanded Noah to build an ark and gather believers and pairs of animals. Islamic accounts describe the flood as global, with water gushing from both the earth and sky. After the waters receded, the ark settled on Mount Judy, rather than Mount Ararat in biblical accounts. The story emphasizes Noah's perseverance in faith despite overwhelming opposition and illustrates Allah's mercy toward believers and judgment upon those who persistently reject divine guidance. Adam and Eve in Islamic tradition. In Islam, Adam is considered the first human and the first prophet. The Quran describes how Allah created Adam from clay, breathed his spirit into him, and taught him the names of all things. Angels were commanded to prostrate before Adam, but Iblis, Satan, refused out of pride. Adam and his wife Hawa, Eve, lived in paradise until they were tempted by Satan to eat from the forbidden tree. Unlike the biblical account, Islam does not view this as original sin that taints all humanity. Rather, Adam and Eve repented and were forgiven. Their story in Islam emphasizes human susceptibility to temptation, the importance of seeking forgiveness, and humanity's role as God's vicegerent, Khalifa, on earth. The Quran states that all humans are descendants of Adam, emphasizing human brotherhood. Prophet Muhammad, the seal of the prophets. Muhammad is believed by Muslims to be the final prophet, the seal of the prophets, Khatam an-Nabiyyin. Born in Mecca around 570 CE, Muhammad received his first revelation at age 40 through the angel Gabriel, Jibril, in the cave of Hira. Over 23 years, these revelations formed the Quran. Muslims believe Muhammad was sent to all humanity, not just to Arabs, with a universal message that completed and corrected previous revelations. While deeply revered, Muhammad is considered human, not divine. His life example, Sunnah, forms the second most important source of Islamic guidance after the Quran. Muslims view Muhammad's mission as restoring the original, pure monotheism taught by all previous prophets, which had been altered or forgotten over time. The Quran's view on previous revelations. The Quran acknowledges previous divine revelations, specifically mentioning the Torah, given to Moses, the Psalms, Zabur, given to David, and the Gospel, Injil, given to Jesus. Muslims believe these original revelations contained Allah's true message, but they have undergone textual alterations over time, a concept known as tahrif, corruption or distortion. The Quran claims to confirm what came before it and to be a guardian over it, suggesting it preserves the essential truths of previous scriptures while correcting deviations. This does not mean Muslims reject these texts entirely, rather, they believe the Quran distinguishes between what remains authentic in them and what has been changed. The Quran is viewed as the final, uncorrupted revelation, protected by Allah from alteration. Islamic view of the Torah. In Islamic tradition, the Torah, refers to the revelation given to Moses at Mount Sinai. Muslims respect the Torah as divine revelation in its original form, and the Quran repeatedly instructs the children of Israel to follow the Torah's teachings. However, Islamic theology holds that the current Jewish Torah, the Pentateuch or first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, contains both authentic divine revelations and human additions or alterations. When Quranic teachings align with Torah accounts, Muslims affirm these as preserved divine truths. When differences occur, Muslims attribute these to textual changes. Despite these reservations, classical Islamic scholars often cited biblical texts, and Torah stories supplemented Quranic narratives in Islamic tradition. Muslims are encouraged to neither fully accept nor completely reject the current Torah, but to verify its contents against Quranic teachings. Islamic view of the Bible and Gospel, Injil. In Islam, the Gospel, Injil, is understood as the original revelation given to Jesus, distinguished from the 4 canonical Gospels of the New Testament. Muslims believe that while the original Injil was divine revelation, the current Gospels contain a mixture of authentic teachings of Jesus and later human additions. Islamic tradition particularly questions passages suggesting Jesus' divinity or status as God's literal son, viewing these as later theological developments that contradict pure monotheism. Muslims often point to verses where Jesus emphasizes worship of God alone as preserved authentic teachings. Despite these theological differences, many Muslims respect Jesus' ethical teachings in the Gospels, particularly those emphasizing compassion, charity, and spiritual purity, seeing these as consistent with Islamic values. Other named prophets in the Quran. Beyond the major prophets, the Quran names numerous others, each with specific lessons. These include David, Dawood, praised for his judgment and granted the Psalms, Solomon, Sulayman, known for his wisdom and ability to communicate with animals, Joseph, Yusuf, whose story of patience through adversity receives an entire Quranic chapter, Jonah, Yunus, who was swallowed by a fish after abandoning his mission, Job, Ayub, exemplifying patience through intense suffering, John the Baptist, Yahya, born miraculously to elderly parents, Zechariah, whose prayer for a son was answered despite old age, Elijah, Elias, who opposed idolatry, Elisha, Elyasa, Lot, who warned against immorality, Aaron, Harun, Moses' eloquent brother, and others including Idris, Tulkifl, Shuaib, Salih, and Hud. Each prophet's story emphasizes different aspects of faith and moral conduct. Prophets not named in the Quran. Islamic tradition embraces the concept that Allah sent prophets to all nations throughout history. While the Quran specifically names 25 prophets, Hadith literature suggests there were approximately 124,000 prophets in total. This inclusive view means Muslims are open to recognizing righteous teachers from various traditions as possible prophets, even if not explicitly named in Islamic texts. Some Muslim scholars have considered figures like Buddha, Zoroaster, and wise teachers from other traditions as potential unnamed prophets who called their people to monotheism, though such views remain speculative. This concept reflects Islam's universal claim that Allah has sent guidance to all peoples throughout history, not just to the Middle East. Muslims are taught to respect all prophets equally without discrimination. Common themes in prophetic stories. Prophetic narratives in the Quran follow consistent patterns that emphasize core Islamic teachings. All prophets proclaim Tawhid, pure monotheism, warning against shirk, associating partners with God. They face rejection from their societies, particularly from wealthy and powerful elites who view prophetic messages as threats to the status quo. Prophets demonstrate sabr, steadfast patience, through persecution. Their stories often conclude with divine intervention, salvation for believers and punishment for persistent rejectors. These narratives serve multiple purposes. Confirming Muhammad's experience through similar prophetic patterns, providing moral lessons, offering comfort to believers facing hardship, and demonstrating historical continuity in God's message. The repetition of these themes across different prophet stories underscores their significance in Islamic theology. Miracles and prophets in Islam. Islamic tradition acknowledges that many prophets performed miracles as divine signs supporting their missions. These miracles are termed mujizat, literally, that which incapacitates, as they rendered opponents incapable of replication. Examples include Moses parting the sea and transforming his staff into a serpent, Jesus healing the blind and raising the dead, and Solomon commanding the winds and communicating with animals. However, Islamic theology emphasizes that these miracles occurred only by Allah's permission, not through the prophet's inherent powers. The Quran presents Muhammad's primary miracle as the Quran itself, an intellectual miracle challenging Arabs to produce anything similar in literary excellence. This shift from physical to linguistic miracle reflects Islam's emphasis on the Quran as rational guidance accessible across time, rather than temporary supernatural displays. Practical importance of prophets in Muslim life. Prophets serve as central moral exemplars in everyday Muslim life. Muslims are encouraged to study prophetic stories not merely as historical accounts but as practical guides for navigating modern challenges. Prayer practices include sending blessings upon all prophets, particularly Muhammad, peace be upon him. Many Muslims name their children after prophets to inspire similar virtues. Prophetic stories provide ethical frameworks for contemporary issues, with believers asking what would Muhammad, peace be upon him, or Abraham, Moses, Jesus, do, when facing moral dilemmas. Religious education emphasizes prophetic character traits like honesty, sidq, trustworthiness, amana, intelligence, fatana, and conveying truth, tabligh. Annual commemorations like Muhammad's birthday, Mawlid, or the sacrifice of Eid al-Adha, recalling Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, connect Muslims to prophetic legacies. And there you have it. We hope you found this information helpful and thought-provoking. Our goal is always to provide you with content that both informs and engages. If you enjoyed this video and found value in it, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to hit that like button. Your positive feedback helps our content reach more viewers who might benefit from it. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to stay updated on our latest uploads. We release new videos regularly and would love to have you join us on this journey of discovery and learning. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care and stay curious.